Well, for this week's Trash to Treasure project, we're making a couple of bar stools. Actually, we're making one bar stool on camera. I made the other one off camera, but just to give you an idea of different types of tops you can use. So stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. Alright, the first thing we need to do before we even think about starting to build our stool is we need to make a jig. This will make our crafting a lot easier. So what I have here is a little square piece of paper. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some lines on it. I'm going to fold it in half. And so the lines are really easy to see. I'm going to run a Sharpie pen on that fold, the whole length of it. Now, I'm going to fold it this way. This will make laying out our stool, the legs of our stool, a lot easier so that we'll have a nice looking stool. This is a Trash to Treasure project, but that doesn't mean we want it to look like a piece of trash. We want it to look good. Alright, so we've got those 4 lines. Now we've drawn 2 lines to get our 4 quarters. Now we need to go this direction. So line up, and this is where if you've cut your paper perfectly square, which I think I'm off a little bit, but it's fine. So line up those lines. And this is the easiest way for me anyway to make lines like this. So this is usually how I do it. Line everything up. If all those lines line up, you're in the right spot. Alright, that's all we need this pen for. Now, we'll lay this out. So now we have a square of paper, whoops, under the camera, with the lines, with 8 equal distant lines. Now, this is just a scrap of foam core. We're going to need the foam core for this jig, and then we're also going to use some of it for our stool. So first, I am going to measure off a 1/4 inch. I'm going to take the nearest pen I have here. I'm going to draw a line at a 1/4 inch. Now, I'm going to move my ruler up so that I've got a 1/2 inch. I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch strip, and I'm going to try to keep this as straight as I can so that these will be nice and straight and they'll work the way I want them to. Now I need a second one. And draw another line at a 1/4 inch and cut it a 1/2 inch. That way we know where the center of these pieces are. Now, put this foam core to the side. You're going to need it in just a moment. Now we need some tacky glue and our paper. So first we're going to line up on our line. Whoops, did not need that much glue. Now, make sure this is under camera. I'm getting glue all over my desk. And line that line up. Now, line this one up with that line. And I need to stand up because, yeah. Now this needs to get all the way dry before we can use it to go on to our next step. Now that our jig is ready, we can start working on our stool. So first thing, we need to cut a piece of foam core to fit inside of the lid. And this is just a lid off of a glass bottle of frosty beverage. And both soda and beer and hard cider and all kinds of things come in glass bottles. And if you can get the ones that the caps screw off, those are better. you don't have to fiddle to straighten them out, because if you've used a bottle opener, there'll be a portion that's pulled away that'll have to be smushed back down, and there might be dents. So I know, because I've done a couple of these already, that on my circle gauge, my 1-inch circle is just the right size to fit inside of my bottle cap. So I'm going to trace that, but I'm also going to make marks at the quarter marks. Those are important marks. That's where we're going to poke holes to put our legs. Between that and our jig, that will help us to get our legs as close to straight up and down as we can. So first cut out a square around your circle. This isn't taking very much foam core, just a little bit. And this doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay if it's a little jagged looking. It's just a process of whittling off the parts of the foam core that are outside of that line. And not cutting your finger in the process. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll be able to find a picture of the real bar stools, but I actually got this idea walking through a furniture department a while back. There were real bar stools that they looked just like they were made out of, with the seats made out of giant bottle caps, and they were the most awesome thing, and I thought these would be perfect to downscale. Now we know it fits. I like to test that before I go any further. Now, push pin. We're going to go in at an angle, just a little bit of an angle. See that? All the way through. And I got glue on my push pin earlier, and it's not wanting to come out. It's 3. Where am I at? I flipped it over by accident. There. Now you'll need a glue for this project that will adhere. Oh, before we get the glue, we need to do our footrest. So we need some wire, and this is just 12 gauge wire. I got this at Dollar Tree, and it's really soft and pliable, and it cuts and bends really easily, but it was only $1. So I found that my giant glue stick bottle is just a little bit bigger than my bottle cap. It's about the same size, maybe just the tiniest bit bigger, and that's what we want. I'm going to do that, slide it off, because we need a nice round place for the footrest. Now, where those two come together, so I'm going to cut in a little bit, because last time I cut wire off this, I cut it at an angle. The reason I'm having trouble is I was trying to cut 2 pieces of wire at once. Now, that wire will work. I was going to use my epoxy glue, but my epoxy glue is not working correctly, so I'm using my Julep embellishing glue. This stuff is ancient. It's been around forever, and it's still working just fine. You can use any glue that will hold wood and metal and plastic. Those are the things that you need it to hold and won't melt foam core. So first, I'm going to put a pretty good dollop in the bottom of there. And then I've got a tile, I'll move it onto the screen a little bit, over here. Because we are going to need to be dipping into that. So first we're going to put this in here. And that glue came up that hole, that's fine. Because we've got 4 of those fancy toothpicks. Those are our legs. And they're just about the perfect height or length to be legs in 1-inch scale. Dip them in here. We need this all prepped because things are going to move pretty fast now. And then things have to sit and dry. Dip into the glue, get a good coat of glue on. It can be messy. It's not going to show. When we're done, we're going to put a little extra security there too. Now, get your wire. And yeah, usually it will slide down over the bottle cap. Now, our jig. We've got this laid like this for two reasons. Number one, it helps us line everything up, but also it's the perfect height for this to be. Now move your legs around and get them as best as you can so they are lining up on those lines. Now take a toothpick and put some glue where the wire meets the toothpick. And I'd like to go down inside and push the wire down so it's resting on that foam core. And this is a lot easier when you don't have a camera in the way, or you're not trying to work with a camera. You can get your head right where you need it. Right, now that you've got glue, and you can add more glue once this is set up. All right, one more check. And I'm going to stand up to do this. Yes, that looks good. This is down. Those are all on the lines. And now that needs to set and dry for a while. So when that's dry, I'll be back. All right, now this has sat overnight. So, and it's pretty solid, but we're going to do one more step, two more steps to make sure that it looks good on the bottom and that it's solid. So this, and these two are optional. I don't want that to look like a piece of foam core down there. So I have some black craft paint. And I'm going to use a fairly small brush because I don't want to get this up on the legs or on the bottle cap very much. We're just going to paint this base. I did another one earlier, kind of my prototype, and I didn't paint the base, and I wished after I was done I had. So this time through, and it doesn't have to be particularly neat because this is, after all, just the bottom. Alright, so now that paint needs to dry, and when that's dry, we're going to make sure that this is nice and solid. Whoops, I have a spot where my leg did not glue on. So let's go ahead and fix that. Of course, my glue, it's the next day from when I did the rest of this, and my glue has been sitting upright instead of upside down all night. So which leg was that? That, which, this one, it's almost set on, but not quite. It was, I will say, it was very difficult to make sure I was under camera and could still see there. So that glue and that paint need to dry, and when I come back, we'll finish off that bottom a bit more. Alright, one final step, and this is optional, but I find that the toothpicks need a little more stronger gluing to the foam core, and I just want to be sure that nothing comes apart. So you've got your options. I'm just going to use tacky glue today. Just squirt some on there. Use a toothpick. I've also, on one of the ones I made up earlier, I had the bottle of triple thick sitting out, and I just flooded it with triple thick. Anything to help these, the toothpicks and the foam core really form a strong bond, because when we put this together, we didn't give them a lot of gluing. And this will dry clear, or pretty clear. I didn't really want that all the way up the leg. So now the glue just needs to dry, and then we will be done, and we will look at our bar stools. Alright, as you can see, my glue is not 100% dry, but when it is dry it will be clear like it is around the edges, and it does make this a lot more sturdy, so it's up to you. I've made another one here. This one I didn't paint black underneath, and I actually coated it with triple thick because that was convenient at the moment. But I love how these turned out. They give just a fun vibe. They'd be cute around a bar in like a family room of a dollhouse or wherever. They're just cute. And you could do soda can lids. You could do anything. So many things come in these bottles. Or go to the craft store and buy the lids in the craft store that are plain, that are made for crafting, and just use those. Those would be fun too. But I love this fun Trash to Treasure project. I hope you did too. Be sure and check the blog post for some more pictures of the completed stools. And if you haven't found my Facebook group, I encourage you to go over there and push that like button, because over there I share some pictures to kind of tease you what's coming up, and it's the best way to talk to me. And I will talk to you later.